So we're here today with our two new guys here. We got Chris, who's gonna be helping us with our tech support, so we gotta train him up on how to work on these power washers. And we got Rod, who's our data analytics specialist, and he needs to know everything about how everything works so he can do his thing. So we're gonna be figuring out how to fix everything we can on one of these X Factor power washers. We're gonna go through the whole list, and I'm gonna forget something. But we'll find out what it is in the comments and then we'll make another video.
I've been waiting for 2 years for this thing to kick the bucket in any way that it possibly could, and it hasn't. So we gotta make problems so we can fix them.
Is this how you make a heated pressure washer?
This is how you make a heated power washer.
You want me to throw the Kranzel at it?
It's impressive that that thing still works.
It's just a pain. We need it to be broken, man.
You want to run it dry?
Yeah.
Here's the water off here. I'll burn it while you burn it from the inside with no water running. We need some marshmallows, man. We're gonna try and overheat the pump seals so that they fail.
Okay, we got our first problem. This pressure switch finally died. So this is not holding open the circuit that keeps the thing running. So what we're getting is a stutter while running and then re-engaging. That's because only one pressure switch is working right. So let's try and fry this other one. Now it's your turn, you ready? There you go. I'd say that should be fried by now. There we go. Oh, okay. It's working. That's a pretty good one. Keep going, do it again. Yeah. This is the pressure switch that's responsible for turning on the machine, and it either closes or opens the circuit that operates the time delay relay and turns on and off the motor. This one opens it, this one keeps it open. So if you get a stutter while it's running and you're holding it wide open and it's turning off and then right back on again, then this pressure switch is bad. And if it's not turning on at all, then it's most likely that this pressure switch is bad. We'll get into the electronics of that. You're running a cooling cycle on it. Yeah, it's pretty hot. It's like steaming in there, huh? Okay, so let's fix up the pressure switches and then we'll get running again and see what else we can break. All right, so we got some new pressure switches here. These are the 1/4 inch thread. That's what this has got on it already. They also make these with the 3/8 thread, but generally these are made with the 1/4 inch size. So we'll slap these on and I'll show you how that looks. All right, so these things have wires that come off of each one of them, and those go right down into this box here. One thing you want to be sure of is that you lock out your stuff and make sure there's no power running to it. Otherwise you might touch things and stuff would happen, you know? But we're gonna leave the power on for me here right now just so I can show you what voltages are supposed to go to what things.
You get your fused incoming power off your transformer.
Yep.
Then it goes to the switch.
Yep.
From the switch to the input of your timer relay.
Yep.
And then your input goes to your timer, your digital timer, and your coil.
Yep.
And then these are your pressure switches.
Yep.
Wired in series.
Yep. Yes, you have your two common wires, one from each pressure switch, and then the one after the pump has the red and the blue. I need to wake up, bro. Let me touch the electricity.
You're gonna look like Marv touching the sink.
And the brown and blue wires are this one right here. So red and blue wire, brown and blue wire, and then blue wires spliced together and brown and red spliced together, and then those go into the relay. But to keep it simple, we could just cut these wires here and match the colors. We can make it easier with some cap splices. So there's no need to get in there and like redo all of the terminal crimps. Leave it plugged in.
I don't want to.
All right, we're gonna again, you know, you can't really work on it with electricity on because that would kill you. But you can jump it manually by doing this, as long as it's on there.
Not with that.
Bro.
No. Use insulated pliers. It could bite you.
There's no voltage here, bro.
Yes, there is. I feel like Sid from Toy Story. Melt on all those plastic.
So that's the plunger switch inside there. This is a moving part, and so sometimes this piece can get a little bit jammed up or melted.
The plunger comes up
and presses that button on the switch, yeah. So if something gets inside this plunger and seizes it, then it won't operate properly and open and close the circuit like it's supposed to.
Which is fairly easy to do because it's a small orifice on the...
It is, yeah. Yeah, it could be anything.
Hard water, dirt.
Little something get in there and get stuck. And for that reason, the most common thing that fails on these machines is the pressure switches. But they're quick and easy to swap out, so it's good we're starting with these.
So they don't use the red wire on the...
They don't use the red wire on the one that comes off the pump. They use the red wire on the one that comes after the unloader valve at the outlet.
Each pressure switch is the same, but it's where you land the wires on the switch.
Right. Yeah, you want us there? You gotta go the other way.
What?
You're holding your wrench wrong.
I thought we do that for the internet. Spray alternators, let's spray that let's spray the motor. It's my first day and my last day.
Chris is going to be our tech support line for our 800 number. So if you guys need any help, give us a shout there. We're going to have all the answers if you need any repair help. We need some Teflon, man, or some kind of Loctite. If we only use Loctite, it will probably take like 2 hours to seal. But if we use some Teflon on there as well, then it'll be instantaneous. That's what we need.
Do they sell wiring, or not sell, have wiring diagrams online? Or do you have like any printouts for these?
I think we might have a wiring diagram.
Get used to seeing this, Duncan.
Hey, you're putting it on in the right direction. You know what you're doing or something.
A little bit.
See that, Rod? See that?
I see it.
Yeah, that's experience right there.
It is experience. I always put it on the wrong direction.
If you're looking at it, you want to go clockwise with it.
You want it, as you tighten it, to have the tail going with the tightening so it doesn't untighten or undo itself. Yeah.
Canceled. 2 times in one day.
So these switches are both at rest right now, so we can test them to see which is normally open and which is normally closed. All right, so the blue is the common. So this is normally closed. And that's what we want on the outlet. Normally open with blue and brown goes on the one on the pump head here.
So how do you know that?
About like actually reading the manual.
I mean, I think you knew how to wire these and fix these before you could walk, so.
This is a good resource though. This is loaded. Every one of these comes with a diagram and also the whole breakdown of like parts, like problems by topic at the back. Problem, the possible thing, and the solution.
Where do you put the gas on that thing?
In here, I think.
Oh. Pressure switch normally closed, outlet line.
Yep.
You're gonna use blue and red. Pressure switch normally open. Pump head.
Blue and brown.
Blue and brown.
That's what it looks like in a wiring diagram. So let's repair this in a way that's easy for the customers to do. So the easiest way to do this is to just strip the wires and match the colors. If you wanted to get really fancy, you could cut this off entirely and like remake these terminal ends. What are those called, Chris? Terminal crimps? Pretty sure that's a terminal.
Spade connectors?
Spade connector? I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe you're right. Yeah. So we got our wire stripped here, and we're just gonna put it right back on the terminal where it came from.
This dog eats better than I do, and acts like she's hungry all the time.
You want to power wash your Kona?
The confusion can come from those, like, you got 2 pressure switches that are identical. We have to be bomb diffusers and cut one of these on each.
You don't have to. You could always leave them.
We just have to help them decipher.
So this is our pressure switch on the very end of the power washer, the very outlet. This one, we're gonna cut off the brown wire.
And this makes it what?
That makes it normally closed, normally open.
Now you're the customer getting us all confused.
Yeah, so that one's good. This one, we're gonna cut the red off of that one.
Which makes it?
Normally closed.
You know what KISS stands for?
Keep it simple, stupid.
These are like a last ditch resort because of vibration and stuff. I wouldn't strongly recommend them. If you have crimpers and stuff, I would recommend that instead.
So the best way to do it and the way we'd normally do it is to use a pair of wire crimpers and some terminal crimps on the ends.
But we're doing this so then we can unwire one and have people troubleshoot it for training.
It makes sense. You know, we can now manually disconnect one of the things and see what happens.
Kona.
Yes?
Can you tell us how this works real quick?
Easy. Red wire to the pump outlet after the unloader. Brown wire to the pump head. And splice the blue wires together.
Just one wire to one wire matching the colors. That's it. So you can see that we just matched the colors, one wire to one wire, all the way across. So this is supposed to idle and then time down. Oh, the white wire's got to go up in the top corner to give the time delay relay power. This is why I recommend to cut the wires in place and not slide these off, because it's easy to put them on backwards again, then you have another weird problem. All right, fire it up now. That should have power. Yeah, so now you have time to lay off.
I tried to pull a fast one on you and you caught it right away.
So you've got your main power coming in. That's going up into this block. This thing is what connects your motor to the wall and turns that thing on and off. You have two wires coming out of that are very small that go into this thing. This is called a transformer. And that transformer takes that 220 volts and turns it into 24 volts. Once you've got 24 volts, you hit a small fuse. Then that comes around here, hits the on-off switch. That on-off switch can forward that power over to the time delay relay. And the time delay relay is just to give a 15-second delay when you release the trigger so that the switches aren't turning on and off your motor really quick, especially if you have a small leak or something like that.
That 24 volts is considered your control voltage.
It's called control voltage. That's because everything this operates is control related, like controlling the motor.
Yeah, you're energizing the coil.
Yeah.
Making the magnetic field, sucking in the...
Yeah. Yeah, so basically this is all a big fancy way of turning on and off this connector with a little bit of a delay. It's just a nice feature to allow this thing to turn on and off by itself so that you don't have to. Saves a little bit of energy and keeps your shop quieter while you're working without having to go back and forth to this thing all the time. So that's pretty much everything that's in there. So the other thing you would want to look at if the issue is that your machine is not starting, if it's not the pressure switches, it could be that time delay relay that black box that we put the wires onto. That has been a failure point before. You can always take an electrical meter and make sure that you are getting 24 volts out of this transformer here, and that you are getting your 220 coming in the first place, obviously. And sometimes one thing that comes up is, like, if you went to Home Depot and threw a Ryobi power washer nozzle on this, it would probably overheat it, but the motor has built-in thermal overload protection. And what that looks like is this red button right here on the back. That will pop out if this thing gets above like 180 or something. Chris, do you know?
That's wrong.
All right, he knows what's up. What is it?
It measures amp draw.
Oh.
So when your amp draw increases, it heats up a disc. I gotta see the data tag. At 230, it'll draw 31 amps plus a service factor. So it'll probably draw like 35 amps.
And if it starts going up above like what, 40 you think?
45, 50 amps, it'll start to generate heat. It'll actually trigger it. So if that pump starts to seize up,
yeah,
the motor starts to work extra hard, which increases your amp draw.
Then that'll pop.
It'll sense that, and
that protects your motor and yourself and your shop from burning down. If all else fails, very rarely this is the problem. This thing is a moving part in itself, and it's only rated for like maybe 5,000 or 10,000 cycles maybe.
We see a lot of coils fail out in the field. Depending on your incoming power, if you're like losing a leg or if you have wicked voltage drops while you're using your equipment, you could burn the coils up in them. But
voltage drops will do it. One other thing I've seen is chattering on these too. So like if you get a voltage drop at your place, like a brownout or something, where maybe your voltage drops into the 190 volts range, you might see that this transformer is not putting out a full 24 volts. And then at that point, you're gonna see that the contactor, maybe if it's at 21 or 22 volts, it's not going to be able to fully stay in, and it's going to be like vibrating and arcing. And arcing is really bad for these things. It'll fry them pretty quick. Burn through all of your cycles that the thing is rated for.
So the 24 volt coil is wrapped around like a E-shaped piece of metal in there, like a thick piece of metal.
Yeah.
And when you supply 24 volts to that, it makes a magnetic field, which then sucks them together.
Okay.
Which then pulls that contacts in. So 24 volts sucks it in.
Yeah, motor on, that's what connects them. And literally, what this button is, when that gets pulled in by electricity or by you, it's just connecting that side of the contactor to that side. Hey, we got it running again. What do you think?
It's awesome.
We did it.
We can kill the power.
What do you got over here?
So we're gonna put it on ohms. So check.
0.1 resistance.
Yeah, so we're gonna put it here so we can hear it. These are 3-phase starters. If your contacts are sucking in and your motor's not running, you can always check the top to the bottom of L1, manually push it in, and then now you know that you have good continuity going through each one of your legs. What's good about having a 3-phase starter and only single phase is you're only using 2 of them. So if you burn up one during a chatter or a brownout or just from start and stop. You can maybe get out of a jam by switching one of your phases to the other side of the starter, because the middle one's not being used.
That's true.
So like if L3 burns up, if you push this in and we're not getting continuity,
then you can trade it out from L3 to L2 because those are blank on a single phase motor. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good tip. That'll get you out of a jam.
Yeah, and then
you
we
need to
can
get up and running again.
Then we can overnight you or order you some parts. And
yeah, and we stock each one of these pieces in here so that we can be prompt. You know, we have everything ready to go if anybody needs it.
I'm one of a kind.
You're one of a kind, yeah. We don't have two of Chris over here.
You can order me, but I don't know if I'll show up.
That brings us to the next need here, which is to get into the pressure and how to resolve issues there. The most complicated part is out of the way, understanding this box here and what that does. The most common problem we've covered now, which is the pressure switches needing to be swapped out. The other things I'd like to get into is the unloader valve and how that works, and then the pump and how to rebuild that and how to know what to rebuild in that. So we'll rip this apart next.
Hey, you wouldn't happen to be using a Milwaukee?
Oh yeah, well, they don't know we exist, unfortunately.
Tag them in the comments.
Let's run this thing and see what kind of pressure we got coming out of it. Squeeze that trigger for us, man, one more time.
Do you think we can make like a hovercraft out of it?
You gotta
yes.
plug it in.
Fire up that thing so I can see what pressure we're getting out of it. Getting about 2,800, 2,900 PSI, something like that, which is completely perfect. Unfortunately, that's exactly what it's supposed to put out. So we have full pressure on this, so there's only one thing to do. We have to break this manually to show you exactly what happens when they're not working right. So inside of here you have check valves, 3 of them in here and 3 of them in here. No more water comes out of a power washer than what goes in. The only difference is, and even the water that comes out, it'll look the same until you put a restriction at the end. All this does is force the water through a restriction, which is your nozzle. And depending on the size of the nozzle, depends on how much pressure you get. So the smaller the hole, the more pressure. At the same time, if this thing is not putting out pressure with the right nozzle on it, there's really only a couple things to do. Make sure there's no air leaks coming in beforehand. Make sure your unloader is able to adjust your pressure and keep it up to where you want it on the pressure gauge. And then if neither one of those works, the check valves are worth checking, and then also the seals inside here are worth checking. There's a difference between bad seals and bad check valves. Bad seals have low pressure that runs smooth, and bad check valves have low pressure that pulsates. So let me show you what the pulsation looks like.
So how long have you been doing analytics? 30 years? Let's say region.
If we go in here, you'll see an O-ring in the bottom. So let's mess up one of these O-rings real quick. So this is supposed to seat around this just like that. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's a good healthy O-ring. What we're gonna do is we're gonna chop this thing, and that'll be a way of forcing it to pulsate. We'll create the issue.
Dirt or hard water might give you the same results. Water will get sucked in, water comes in, goes through there, but if it's hung up, when the piston goes up and down, the water will just go in and out, in and out.
Yeah, and I've seen like little pieces of rubber or things get stuck in those check valves and hold them open, and that'll cause pulsation as well. So take 1/8 of an inch out of that one, man. Yeah, now we have a replicated, created, manufactured fake problem here.
We don't fake anything around here.
We just did it on camera, bro.
I know.
Where's that valve at? There we go. All right, we'll throw this back in like nothing. Put this back in, see what happens. Send it home, bro. Yeah, man. I can make your biceps look real big by putting you at the edge. He's all arms. It's all that CrossFit, bro. Look at that. Powerful Chris Gilmore. All set? Let's find out. So now let's see if it pulsates. Let's cut it a little more. Let's see if we can get this thing to stop working. We'll remove it entirely, maybe. Yeah. These machines are just way too durable, Rod. We're trying to like show how to fix them. Cutting the check valves out. Yeah, let's remove that O-ring entirely. There you go. All right, let's slap it back together without the O-ring now and see if we can replicate the problem. Oh, without the check valve at all?
You want it to surge.
I'm not sure if it'll pulse or not. Probably will.
100%.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like.
That's what we want. All right, now let's find out. Fire it up, Rod. Ah!
You can hear it. It's the two of them.
Let's find out. So that's what that looks like. So did you feel the pulsation, Rod?
And less pressure.
Less pressure, yeah.
Yep.
If you have low pressure and you're getting like rough operation, then it's something to do with the check valves, most likely. And before you get into the pump, release the pressure out of the line. Very good idea.
What would happen if you didn't release the pressure?
The pressure would be released right here. In your face, yeah. So I've seen these seating O-rings get jammed into the check valves before. Have a little piece of rubber stuck in there or something. There we go. So we lost 30% of our pressure with 1/3 of the valves out of the picture. I'm curious if we'll now lose 2/3 of our pressure with 2 of the 3 valves out. What do you think?
Sounds like science.
Science?
Sounds like math.
It's math for sure.
I like the fuck around and find out method better.
Yeah.
Because you're like replicating like real world stuff.
Yeah. There it is, bro. Let's find out. Oh yeah, that looking pretty weak, man. What do you think? No good?
No good.
No good.
Let's see what we got for pressure.
Oh wow.
We lost even more. We're at 500 now.
That thing was running rough, man. So you wouldn't be in a position where you're actually missing the valve or anything, but the O-ring being missing would have a similar effect because the water is able to get around the check valve instead of going through it. Is the pressure still in there?
There's a little bit.
Okay, good.
It squirted me a little bit. Yeah. Could you potentially see oil carryover?
I've seen water get from in here into the crankcase because of bad seals, yeah.
But have you ever seen oil come?
No, because it's hard to see because there's only so much of it in there and so much water runs through. I've never been able to notice oil in the water, but I have noticed water in the oil. Over the 20 years that I was working on these in the field, almost universally, this check valve, the one at the furthest to the outlet, is under the most load, and that's the one that loses the O-rings the first. So the one closest to the outlet, if your outlet was over here on this side, that one would die first. If it's over on this side, it'll be that one. Wherever the water leaves the pump, that's the highest pressure check valve. Yeah, man. Get it.
Gotta be too something to do something.
First time breaking open the seals on this thing. We'll find out what's inside. There. Triplex plungers. Look at that, self-supporting on the hose system. Beautiful. It's actually a nice station to work at. All right, so in the back of this manifold here is our seals. Get inside of that, pop those out, see what they look like. The seals, the way they function is they just keep these wetted parts sealed out so the water doesn't come out between. One of the telltale factors when your seals are fried is you'll see a leak coming out between this piece and the pump head manifold, just dripping right out of this. Just like that, just like that. Oh, you got one out.
They're like shaft seals.
Yep. So how do they look on the inside? It's looking a little bit like it's been used a bit. So what you're looking for, on the inside of this gasket here, you'll see some fraying and some ridges and stuff. And over time, seals get tired. It takes probably 500 hours or so before you should need these of runtime. And we only have 140 on this machine. The job isn't really necessary yet, but we might as well do it while we're in here just to show how it's done. I realized I was out of stock on the seals we need, so I brought those in. I didn't start wearing glasses, but I did start wearing cameras. Let's see how these things work. I doubt the picture quality is gonna be as good as my FX3 over here, but heck, you know, a little first person perspective. I brought in a bunch of different parts and pieces that go in the pump, the ceramic shafts. Not that I really need to replace them. I figured maybe we can dive into it and see what that process looks like. Sometimes the ceramic shafts can crack if there's like extreme cavitation on the pump, or maybe if it freezes or something like that. So anyways, those ceramic plungers are available. And then this is the seal kit here. This is the General Pump Kit 127 packing assembly. These are the ones you want if you have smooth low pressure going on. This kit right here, Kit 123, check valves and O-rings in there. Definitely going to be useful. And we got a little bit of fresh oil. Most pumps recommend that you change the oil after the first 50 hours, and then I like to change it at about 500-hour intervals after that. My machine has 140 hours on it, so it's definitely overdue for a little bit of a tune-up. The seals are going to go in a specific order, and I'll take this apart and show you what I mean. And what I like to do is I'll take out one at a time and put it back together again. That way I can just kind of use the other ones to make sure I'm doing it right. Now, General Pump makes an extraction kit for these seals. So you have a slide hammer in here, and you have these things to help you pull out the seals. And they even make a packing insertion kit. This helps you get the seals in there. But nobody has these, so we're not gonna use them. Let's use normal tools. So you just want to pull these out in a way where they don't get marred up, because these are brass and they're soft. So these kind of pliers, you can grab the lip of these things, twist them a little bit, loosen them right up. Here we are. So here's all the different things that are going on in here. You have this sort of plastic ring that goes at the very bottom at the furthest part in. You have this seal which sits right on top of it. This is, I think, one of the ones we're going to replace. You have another backup ring, which I'm not sure, not all of these come with the kit because not all of them are needed. Like the brass pieces are going to get reused. And then this one right here, this one is one of the ones that gets replaced. That can get popped out. A little flathead screwdriver action, pop that right out of there. Let's get the new ones in here. So here we got our replacement kit. So these are the seal closest to the exit. So the backup rings, another seal, another backup ring, another backup ring, and then these brown seals that go further to the inside. So we'll just take one of each of these and put them back in the same order. So of the seals that came out of this thing, we're gonna save this little piece. We'll throw it right back in there. We're gonna replace this one with a nice fresh one. One thing that you're gonna notice is that this particular seal doesn't like to fit in there. This is where those packing kits come in handy. You just wanna be careful not to damage the seal at all, but you can use a flathead screwdriver to kind of work it in. Now if you are doing it this way, just be gentle with the thing. Don't mar it all up. Yeah, there we go. All right, that one's in good. Then we got the next piece here. This is the plastic piece, which is gonna go right on top of that. Same thing, get one corner in. Use your flathead for leverage. And there you go, not bad. This ring goes straight in on top of that one. And then this one here is gonna pop right out. Goodbye. Throw that in there, and now we are done with this one. Set. So that's pretty much it. You repeat this process for each one of the shafts, and then you throw the thing back on there. Today we're gonna be throwing on these ceramic plungers as well, just for the heck of it. Might as well. And then once we get this thing back together, we're gonna change the oil. Alright, so we just need a socket to pull these off of here. Wonder if it's American or metric. 1/2 inch too small. 9/16 too big. 13 millimeter. So these nuts come off of here. So these ceramic shafts are not in bad shape. I just wanted to do this more for the sake of doing it, you know what I mean? There's some Loctite that they use on these nuts here, which is a good thing, I'm sure. Gonna break this Loctite before we can get in there. This is probably the most difficult part so far. I don't often see the ceramic plungers go bad. I just figured, you know, in case anybody has their power washer freeze or something, figured it might be good to at least get into this part of it. So using a small knife seems to help. This is like a little insert piece here. Holds the ceramic stable. And you got a couple small seals inside of this. We'll throw some Loctite back on these too, because you don't want these nuts loosening up inside your pump while it's running. All right, sleeve number 2. Now one piece that I wasn't able to get in were these pieces here. These things, I'm not sure what they do, but we've melted the heck out of them, so we're gonna pull them out of there. This was from our flamethrower for sure. I guess we'll find out what the repercussions are of pulling off these pieces and running it. These are not in bad shape at all. This doesn't really have any marring on it. There's no cracks, so no need to replace it, but we're just gonna do it anyway for the heck of it. Make sure they go on all the way. You want to be careful not to bang on these things or twist them in funny angles. Just try and throw them straight on. Put these sleeves back in. A little Loctite on those won't hurt nobody. Loctite 242 would be better, I think, but I don't have any. Lather that on there real good. Don't over tighten them. I'm sure there's a torque spec for these. I'm sure it's out there. Now, this is a very delicate portion of the procedure right here. So you gotta press this on, but you don't wanna tweak it, you know what I mean? You don't wanna make this thing go on crooked. So just try and wiggle it a little bit. And once you get it about to right there, you can start throwing your bolts back in. Let's see if we can get it to reach. Oh, just a hair short. Yeah, so what I like to do, I like to put the corner bolts in. If you guys haven't used these WeHub hex keys before, I recommend them. Man, real nice stuff. mean, the case alone is worth it. We're going with the 6mm. So what you do is, you're gonna wanna tighten this kind of like lug nuts on a tire. Star pattern, you know what I mean? You just give it a little snug, and you just wanna make sure that you don't push it on crooked, or you'll crack your plungers. Good. All right, seals are done. Now I just gotta throw the valves back in here. So these are pretty easy. Throw the O-ring in first. Make sure the O-ring is seated at the bottom real nice, and then this will go in there, and it'll kind of just, you'll feel it get in there. The most common thing for it to fail would be the check valves generally. I guess you could say they're under the most pressure. The seals are less often. Those would generally not be the issue, but at least we have the how-to video now. If you feel like it, you can always use a pair of needle nose, which helps you get it in there a little better. And then the lower 3. There we go. And same thing. Make sure those are nice and centered. Alright, those look good. Now these caps, they have a little indent in them to accommodate these. Put them right in there and it'll hold them in tight, get them centered. So you do want to make sure that your valves are centered in the first place. Using a 1/16 socket. Now my X Factors actually come with a pressure gauge right here. I'm not sure how I don't have one of those on here, but you'll have a pressure gauge right here, so you'll be able to see what's going on, make sure everything's right. Time to change the oil. Coming around the back of the pump, you're gonna see a plug right there. We have determined that it is a 17mm socket. You're gonna wanna have a funnel and a container ready. We're gonna attempt to capture this oil. Doesn't seem like there's very much oil in there. On top here, they give you a tiny little dipstick. So we'll just get the oil back up into the range of this little thing here. General pump oil. It's specifically formulated for use in high pressure plunger pumps. I believe you can use other types of oil in these too. You'd have to look into that. I'm not sure what they are. I've always used the real, like right exact ones, but I believe you can do other ones as well. All right, let's see if we can get it in the hole. Now this is a vented cap on these things, so I don't know for sure that there is a max level. They do have this little sight on the side of the pump too, so you can see in there. A little hard to tell what's going on though. Oh, I believe some of the larger pumps take 2 of those, but this one I'm pretty sure takes 1. Screw it all the way in. Oh yeah, there's definitely too much in there. We'll find out if there's any problems. I'll let you know. Okay, I think we're ready to fire it back up again. Give this thing some water. Ooh, looks like we've developed a couple of small leaks. Let's see what happens. So we're only getting about 1800 psi and it's pulsating like really crazy. Not sure why. There's a couple things that could be going on. It could be an air leak from the inlet, but generally on a pressure fed system that's not a thing. So I don't think that's what's going on. There's a chance that the pump is a little bit airbound. The first thing that I'll do is pop off a couple of these top valves here and let the water flood the chamber a little bit. Maybe that'll help. It's worth a shot. Kill our water a little bit and release the pressure. Let's see what's going on in here. Let's bleed a little bit of water in here. Seeing some air bubbles popping out. So now these are fully primed. Let's see if that helps. All right, water on. Let's see. Oh, that's much better. How about that? Yeah, it was airbound and that was the solution, just to purge the water a little bit. So there's a couple other things we can straighten out now. One thing I'm noticing is that at low pressure, We're getting a little bit of a leak here. This is probably from the weed torch. Might have had an impact on this clear view filter, so this thing's dripping. We have some scorching on the knob of our unloader here, which I'd like to straighten out. And we have a drip just coming out of here, just the tiniest little drip coming out of this O-ring on this coupling, probably also from the heat. So we'll fix up these three things next. Let me show you how those go. All right, so we'll turn off the water. Let's get this thing out of the way. Now these push to lock hoses spin freely on the fittings generally. That's nice because that's going to allow us to spin this fitting off of here freely. I love push to lock hoses. Before I take this all the way off, let me show you how these work. Now being that the garden hose is plugged into this thing, one thing that I've seen is, you got somebody in the shop trips over the hose and yanks on it, and this clear view plastic part can crack. It's a weak spot. So we could probably, this is how you would clean out the filter if you needed to, but I don't have these plastic pieces separately from the rest of the thing, unfortunately. Maybe I'll try and source these, because normally I just replace the whole thing. They're only like 20-something bucks. They're not bad for the whole filter, but that's how you would get in there to clean this out if you needed to. If you have a lot of junk in your water, you might see that. Yeah, here's a brand new DuraView filter. They come in a few different styles. They have 3/8 threads for smaller machines. They have 1/2-inch threads like this one for this kind of machine. And then some of them have bypass ports and some of them do not. So we want the bypass port because that's where we're going to plug in our bypass. Let's throw some Teflon on this thing and hook it up. I may be the only person you've ever seen who does both Loctite and Teflon. It's only because I hate leaks. Throw this guy right on here and we'll get it through that port so it's nice and straight down. Now while I have this piece off, why don't we change out the unloader? I'll show you what that looks like. One nice thing that we do, so I like to put these 22mm screw couplers on the unloader valve because this is a common wear and tear kind of item. This way you can take this thing off without having to spin it a bunch and take all your stuff off. Makes it a little easier to do the replacement. There we go. Now we can spin this fitting off of here. So now we have our unloader valve all separated out and get our bypass hose off this here. So what an unloader valve does is, because the pump is still running when you release your squeeze trigger, this valve here allows that water, since the water is still moving, to loop through this hose and go back into the inlet of the pump. This thing also sets the resistance on the line, and so the tighter you make this, the more pressure you get. The looser you make it, the less pressure you get. So if you're uncomfortable with a really high PSI, like 3000, then you can cut it back a little bit. I melted my fitting a little bit, so we'll swap out this coupling too. So normally I like to use a non-swivel coupling. This one is a swivel one, but it's all I have in stock right now. Just means that my unloader is going to want to flop around a little bit. It's not ideal, but we'll do it anyway. We got to hook it up. I stock all these parts and pieces. I don't actually have most of these, like the unloader and the inlet filter and stuff, listed on my website yet, but I have them. So if you guys need anything, just let us know. We can make it happen. So these unloaders come with a couple of plugs. Basically, there's two inlets on an unloader. You got one coming in from the back and one coming up from underneath if you want. And you got two bypass ports, depending on where you want to aim your bypass. And then you have the outlet. So they're pretty straightforward, and you just basically plug the sides that you don't need. Now, if you weren't going to fire this thing up right away, you could just use Loctite. Since I'm so impatient, I like to use Teflon just to give me a head start. There we go. And if you're not sure where all the plugs and stuff are supposed to go, you can just match the old unloader that you took off, you know, lay it out the same way. Pretty straightforward. I spent a lot of years maintaining power washers for companies out in the field, until one day when I was needed up by the Canadian border on Christmas morning to fix up some really simple leaks. And I was just looking at the shop where I was hanging out and just looking at all the mechanics' toolboxes and wondering, why am I here? And that's when I decided to start shipping everything. I mean, it's worked out a lot better. I was a little bit plateaued with my range. You know, I was only able to go about 300-400 miles in every direction and keep it reasonable. So now I coach everybody remotely, and we got power washers all over the country now. It's pretty nice. If you don't have a pair of these Nip-X, I forget what they call these. Technically Knip-X, but I can't seem to bring myself to say that. But these are nice wrenches because they They don't mar. They put pressure on soft metals like brass so they don't round them off. And you can kind of ratchet them as you turn them. So they're way nicer than like boxed end wrenches. One nice thing about these wrenches is you can hold the workpiece too. They're like hardcore hands. So what's nice about the non-swiveling swivels or couplings rather is that they don't flop around. This one does. So, but at least it's red. That's cool. Maybe we can prop this thing up by tightening this. Let's see. Okay, better than it was. Now as far as this O-ring leaking in here, take like a knife or something, get it cut up a little bit. Just gotta dig it out of there. There we go. Now this is an EDPM or something like that O-ring, and we're gonna replace that with Viton. I have these packs of 5 3/8 Viton O-rings. These are stocked on the website. These are very commonly needed. So you just throw it in there, and then you seat it all the way down in the bottom, nice and flat. You'll see there's a little groove at the bottom, and that's where it goes. There we go. All right, you'll see it when it's in there, right? All right, there it is. All right, we're all back in one piece. Let's see if we got any leaks. Okay, let some water in there. Wait, I saw a drip. It's coming from down here now. Oh yeah, I'd say that thing's toast. Wonder if we melted this too. Flathead screwdriver, man. So yeah, I just gotta dig out the fragments of this O-ring here so we can get it. And I'll just swap this out with a new one. Yeah. Okay, new O-ring. In case you're wondering what this thing is here, I hooked up a little DI water filter system to my machine here just to see what it would do for me. Just out of curiosity. And so I can turn on my water from the city water, or I can divert it down through here and through the DI filters and then back up into the other side of the pump. Not sure if it's worth it yet. I'm still kind of playing around with it. But for me, it's good to test everything that I can, you know, make sure that everything's good. Make sure there's no weird issues pop up when we're using our soaps combined with like deionized water. Now let's see what we got. So what's cool about this valve is all I have to do to turn on the DI water is go like that. And now the water's going down through those deionized things there, and then comes back up and comes in right here. Real nice, but I still don't know if I need it or not. I don't know. It looks cool though, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of a little bit of an official looking thing. All right, so here we are. So these unloaders are not gonna be set when you first fire them up, so you might get like low pressure. Let's see. We're getting 1500 PSI. One thing you can do if you don't have a pressure gauge or if yours is broken and you want to get to the right pressure, you can hold the power washer wide open running with one hand and then tighten it with the other. And each time you tighten it, you'll see the wand climb a little bit. And at a certain point, it won't climb anymore. And that means that it's set just right. All right, so we're getting 3,500 PSI. We got a bonus 500 PSI out of this repair. That's pretty cool. I thought for sure that we would be capped out at 3,000, but it turns out we got more crank than we ever had before. All right, we got one more upgrade we got to make to this setup. Check this thing out. I just got this in the mail out of nowhere. It's made out of wood, hand painted. It's got our logo on there. No one gives me anything, so this is really exciting. Thank you for making a superior product. Always look forward to watching new videos and the awesome transformations. Crafted in New Jersey. How cool is this? We got to put this thing up somewhere. Can't imagine a more appropriate spot. But we got to show this thing off. Thank you to, hold on, there's a note here. Oh man. Super cool stickers, that's nice. AJ Camarado, that's cool. He has a small woodworking side business crafted in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey. Wow. I came across our stuff years ago and says he really loves them. He uses Stars and Stripes along with snake oil, so, and the heavy duty is his go-to degreaser. Oh, that's cool. Thank you again for the awesome products and badass videos. Always look on the lookout for the next video to drop. He's got his Instagram on here, Crafted in NJ on Facebook and Instagram. Give him a follow, man. This is like some pretty cool work. I would pay money for that thing. That's super cool. Hey Kona, check this thing out. What do you think of this, huh?
Oh Oh, wow.
You ever seen anything quite so nice?
It smells amazing.
I've never seen such a cool flag. You seen such a cool flag before? Where are you going? All right, we gotta hang this thing up. Right there. 80 and a half. Yep. If you don't have yourself one of these 3D printed bit holders, you should get one. Man, how convenient is this? It was like $5 on Amazon. Thanks, AJ. Man, that's cool. All right, so there's just a couple other things with the injector that I'd like to go over real quick that are common fail points. That is the ratio tips and things blocking those right here in the barbs, and also the foaming end over here, the foam cannon on the lance. A couple pieces in there that I'll show you real quick that are pretty easy to straighten out. If you're not picking up soap from your injector, it's pretty simple. These are the ratio tips right here. Let me show you what those look like. So all you gotta do is pull off this tube, and then you'll see that there's a little ratio tip here. This ratio tip has a little pinhole in it. It's easy for stuff to get caught in there. So if you're not picking up soap on one side of the injector, then you want to pull this out, blow on it, throw it back in there. Very straightforward to fix that up. And then once you make sure that's good, throw it back in there, put the tube on. If you have any stuff floating around in your pickup tube, you can always flush those out too. That'd be helpful. Other issues with this valve include, like, sometimes the seals can fail around this lever on the top here. These are rebuildable, but we tackled that ourselves. That's a little bit more complicated, easy to lose the little parts and stuff. And we just have people ship these back in, and we rebuild them, send them back out. We can keep these things running. Now this is one of my current foam lance designs. Let me show you real quick what these look like here. So you pull it off like this. You got your foam nozzle on the inside, and that little O-ring that's supposed to live right there. You want to make sure that's there. Now this model foam injector has these little pins right here. And you can see the pins in there, and there's a couple arrows on them. I think they want the pins to come out this way, wherever the arrows are. So what you do is you take like a hex key or something to press these out. Oh, don't lose them. And you can see the little pins there. Once those pins are out, you can just pull this out, pull this little stem out. This little piece here is the thing that can get clogged, because all your water has to run through this to create foam. And so any junk in your water can get stuck right here. These are about $5. We have them here. We include spares in all of our foam cannons and our kits. Even our PF22s, we include a bonus one of these. All foam cannons kind of work the same. So you just take this out, swap in a new one, stick this back in, stick this right here, put your pins back in there. Now if this thing is clogged, what you're gonna see is where the vents are, these are air intakes. If the water can't come out here, then it's gonna come out around these intakes here. So that's how you know it's clogged. Very quick and easy repair. And we even include a spare one of these in our real deal kits, just so that you can throw a whole nother one on and not even have to fiddle with it at all. I'm gonna be redesigning our real deal kit soon though, so that we have it even a little more streamlined with a little more functionality, but that'll be something I'll work on this summer. Make sure you got your O-ring in there. Hold this straight up like this. Throw this nozzle right on here like this, just like that, exactly like that. So holding it up, yeah, it's a little bit of a carnival game. I think I won a prize. Here we go. And that's how you repair the foamer on one of these. Other issues, sometimes there's leaks here on this valve. That's something that's a little trickier to rebuild successfully. So that's another one where we would probably help out with that, ship stuff around. But I think that's a pretty good rundown of everything that we're doing here. Now, if I forgot to cover anything that you had a question about, just let me know in the comments down below, and I'll just keep making these repair videos. We need them for the hot water machines. We need them for the gas powered machines. We need them for each one of the kits, you know, so I've got plenty of opportunity to talk about how to keep things running. So let me know.